Hi everyone, and welcome back to Life of Lady Di. So happy that you joined. Subscribe, like, and share. So today I am going to be making yellow coconut rice with a wonderful, juicy, tender, delicious steak in a bell pepper and onion gravy. So first we're going to start off by seasoning our water for our rice. In your pot, make sure you measure out, your cups of water to how much rice you're going to be using. Just read the instructions on your bag for the rice. And then to season that water, we're going to add all of the seasonings that I showed you there, your oil of choice, or you can use butter. We're going to use coconut milk. Make sure that you shake the coconut milk first, or it's going to look lumpy like that. Don't worry, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that the milk separated from the actual water of the coconut. So make sure you shake it first. My daughter's helping me out and she forgot to shake it. Cover that up and let that come to a boil. You're going to heat up your cast iron pan or any pan that you have really. And I have my steak that I'm going to add additional seasoning to. And so normally when I get all my meat, I season everything ahead of time. And for my steaks, I do a very light seasoning. And so I took this out the freezer. And initially the seasonings that were on it were very simple seasonings, like some garlic. I added red wine to it. Just very mild seasoning, some herbs. And so once it defrosted for today, I'm adding my additional seasonings. And the reason why I do that is because maybe I don't want like a savory steak. Maybe we want something that has a little sweetness to it or a little spice to it. Something that's a little spicy. Just depends on how we feel. Maybe you want to do like a barbecue. So that's why I do like a mild seasoning at the beginning when I am marinating all my meats when I go food shopping. Anyway, so we added all the seasonings for today. As you saw there, add the amount that you need to your taste. And then we're going to toss all of that together with the red wine that's already in there. And our pan is still getting nice and hot. We want it pretty smoking. All right, we're going to add some lemon juice or lime juice. And you can always do the fresh lemon juice or lime juice as well. We're mixed all that up together. Our pan is really nice and hot. And then I'm going to add some of our Haitian épices. Some people call it sofrito. But it's just a mixture of different herbs and spices. And it's in almost every Caribbean or I would say Spanish home. So we usually add it to our meats and when we're cooking. So that's all been mixed up. Now I'm going to add my steak to my very hot smoking pan. And what I'm doing here is pretty much just getting a color on it. And then also so I can caramelize those seasonings so I can add, so I can have those pan drippings later on to make my gravy. So there it is. And it's nice and sizzling. And we're not going to be doing this so we cook the steak at all. It's really just to get a quick sear on the steak, to seal in all those flavors, to caramelize the seasonings, and then so I can also get the pan drippings for the gravy for later on. And so we're going to let that brown. I have my pan on medium-high heat. Initially I had it on high and then I turned it down a bit. And so just adjust your temperature to make sure that you're not burning your food. I'm just checking it to see if it's starting to get brown. I noticed that it is starting to get brown and caramelized. So I'm going to go ahead and flip these steaks. And again, as I said, I'm not cooking it fully. I just really want to get a caramelization on it and get the pan drippings. So flip your steaks. Just like that. That looks so delicious. Look at how nice and brown that is getting. All that browning on your steak and the drippings that are going to end up in your pan is going to provide a wonderful base for your gravy later on when we're putting that together. So yes, we're just going to keep flipping our steaks, moving them around. Again, we're not cooking them. Our pan is on medium to high heat. This one looks ready. We're going to flip this one as well. And again, we're just doing this just for a little color and to sear our meat and to get the pan drippings. And this looks just so delicious. Look at how amazing that is. Alright, so those are ready to come out. So I'm going to put them in my baking dish that I have set aside here. And remember, we did not cook our steak all the way, but look at all those wonderful pan drippings that are gathering at the bottom of our pan. We're going to make sure our pan gets hot, really nice and hot again. We're going to add the rest of our steak to our pan so we can also sear those steaks up and get them nice and seared and brown to lock in those juices, so that way we can make our gravy. Look at how delicious these steaks look. So these amount of steaks right here, I have a family of 4. My partner, he loves steaks, so most likely he's going to have 2 of these by himself. Each of the twins, who are 16, they'll have one, and I'll have one as well. So it's plenty of food, and really, especially if, let's say, for example, you have a larger family, once you're done cooking the steaks later on, you can slice them into strips, and then that way the meat can go much further than just everyone having individual steaks. And you can definitely cook all this food on a good budget, feeding your family flavorful, tasty foods. Food does not have to be complicated at all, okay? We're just cooking, we're having fun. Maybe pour your glass of wine, maybe put on some music. You know, just enjoying life while you're making your food for your family, for yourself, trying different cooking techniques. Don't be afraid to get in the kitchen and just make it happen. What's the worst thing that could possibly happen? You add seasoning and you're like, oh, this is not for me, I prefer this. The only way you'll find out what you love to eat and what you, the flavors that you love, is really by experimenting. So get in that kitchen and do that. So now we're going to add about a tablespoon of tomato paste and a tablespoon of chopped garlic to our hot pan. Oh, can you add a little water to this one, please? Can you add a little water to it, please? To the bowl, can you add a little water? And we're going to go ahead and mix that all up. As you can see, all the drippings are nice and brown. Everything's getting caramelized, so we really want the tomato paste, the garlic to get nice and caramelized, okay? It's not going to burn. If you notice that it's getting a little darker than you would like, a little too fast, just go ahead and turn your heat down. It's really that simple. So we've already pre-cut some bell peppers and onions, thanks to my daughter. She sliced them up for me. And then we're also going to add red bell peppers as well, but she's still cutting that up. And we're going to mix that up and cook that with our tomato paste, our chopped garlic, the bell peppers and onions, and we're pretty much just getting them nice and caramelized. We're not cooking them till they're completely translucent at all. We just really want to build on flavor, okay? I'm going to add just a little touch of peanut oil. You can add the oil of your choice, just to help all those wonderful veggies and the tomato paste and the garlic to do what it needs to do. So just mixing that up really well. So initially, my daughter, she was supposed to separate all the onions, the onion rings, but she didn't. So I just went ahead and did that off camera real quick. So go ahead, make sure you pre-separate your onions into rings before you put it in the pan. And if you don't want to do like onion rings, you can always do like diced onions. You can slice your onions into half moons, whatever worked best for you. There's no specific way that you have to have your onions cut at all. This is home cooking made simple, easy, no fuss, no muss. And so now that that's been caramelized and it's still rendering down and cooking a little bit, what I did was add water to the bowl that I had my meat marinating in. So I'm just going to mix that up real quick. I added about 1.5 cups of water to my bowl and swirled all that around with the seasonings and everything that was already in there, and I'm going to add that to this pan. Make sure my heat is back on high, and I'm going to be scraping the bottom of the pan because I want to get all of that delicious sweet caramelization from the tomato paste, from the chopped garlic, from the onions, from the bell peppers, from the steak seasoning, and we're going to mix that really well. I had my daughter mix about half a cup of water with about a tablespoon of flour, and she mixed that up really well with the fork, and then that's what you just saw that we added to the pan, so we can make a gravy. So pretty much you're just doing like flour and water to help thicken up your sauce so it can become a gravy. And so I'm just mixing that up really well. She did a great job at mixing the water and the flour together because there's no lumps. So yay to her. Kudos to my big baby girl. She did such a great job. So we're going to let this start to get cooking. Let it come to a good boil. You want it simmering really fast. And so that way it can thicken up. If you notice that it's getting a little too thick for your liking, just add a little bit more water to it. That's fine. And you're going to mix it up, remembering to constantly scrape the bottom to get all of that wonderful, delicious, caramelized goodness.
All right, let's taste this.
And then we're going to also taste it at this point. So we know we seasoned our steak, and then your steak right now, it should be at a medium rare, because of the amount of time you cooked it. So you can always just cut off a little piece, taste your steak, and then that way you can determine, do I need more seasoning for my sauce? And so since I tasted it and my daughter tasted it, we decided, yes, we do want to add a little bit more seasoning to our sauce, but we don't want to add too much because we don't want it salty. So I'm going to add a little bit of that green Saison seasoning to my sauce. And then I know that once I put my steak in with my sauce, the seasonings and the steak and the sauce together in the oven, it's going to all meld and the flavors are going to be perfect. It's not going to be salty. It's not going to be too overly seasoned at all. I currently have my oven on 350, and so it's ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and finish mixing this up real quick, and then I'm going to transfer all the onions and bell peppers to my oven dish where my steak is located. And I'm going to make sure I add all that in there. I'm doing that first. You can dump it in, but my cast iron pan is like super heavy. So I don't want everything splattering on me because it's really, really hot. So I was like, all right, let me take out these bell peppers and onions first, and then I'll dump in all of that gravy. All right, so I added all of my gravy to my steak, as you can see here. And so what I'm doing right now is just making sure that I'm moving the meat around so that way the gravy can get in between all of the meat that was in the baking dish. So I don't want any parts of the meat to not have the gravy, like, you know, on top of it, under it, around it. I really want this meat to be saturated in this gravy. So we're going to cover it and put it in the oven for about 15 minutes. Now we're going to go ahead and continue with our rice. And so the water came to a full boil. I added my rice, and now I'm stirring and mixing that up really well. And so we're going to mix it, make sure to scrape the bottom, and then we're going to let our rice water, I guess that's the best way to say it, but it is seasoned rice water. We're going to let that start to come to a fast simmer, almost to a boil, just like this. And so we're going to keep making sure that we're stirring it. Don't have your heat on high because it can burn depending upon the type of pan you have. And so when you're mixing it, you're going to go ahead and keep scraping the bottom to make sure none of the rice is getting stuck at the bottom of your pan. You're going to mix that really well, and you're going to continue this process while the water is evaporating from the pan and the rice is soaking in all of this flavorful, delicious rice sauce that we have going and boiling. And we want it to come to a fast, rapid boil like you see here. And then we're going to mix it again. But we do want it to come to a certain point where, as you can see here, there's more surface bubbles on top of the rice. And so be very careful because it's hot. You don't want to burn yourself because it will be splattering. Turn your heat down if that's getting a little too out of control for you. What I'm doing here is scraping the bottom of the pan, making sure that the rice isn't sticking to the bottom of the pan. And once I mix that up really well, like I'm doing here, and then it's going to get to a point where it's just, I would say, like a very thin film layer of this rice, that the rice sauce, quote unquote, or the liquid from the rice. It almost looks like you're cooking porridge, right? So it kind of looks like that kind of consistency, or like it's ready to like you're making grits or something. So that's the consistency you want, and you want this many bubbles breaking the surface. And once you're at this stage right here, you are almost ready to cover your rice and turn it down on low. So I'm just watching it. I'm going to mix it again, making sure to scrape the bottom. We're going to make sure so now you can actually see the grains of rice as well. So now you know you're good to go. So we're going to cover it, and we're going to turn our heat all the way down. And so this is the rice after cooking for about 20 to 30 minutes. I'm going to fluff it with a fork. And there you have it. The rice is cooked, perfectly tender, not mushy, coconut yellow rice. And here's our steak with bell pepper and onion gravy that's been cooking in the oven for the past 30 minutes. It's delicious. It's ready to go. It's tender. I mean, this is just such a delight to eat, and it's so flavorful. You're going to absolutely love this recipe. Feel free to add mixed veggies to this dish as well. So we're plating our yellow rice. Look at how beautiful that looks. And here is our steak with bell pepper and onion gravy. You guys, this is absolutely delicious. I can't wait for you guys to make it. Put comments. Let me know what you think about this recipe. If you have any questions, would you like to see me make anything else? If you have any questions about island cooking, why do I make foods in a certain method? Like whatever the questions you may have, put them in the comments. I am always reading. Like, share, and if you haven't already, please subscribe and support my channel. Tell your friends, and then, just enjoy life, enjoy cooking. You can always go to my channel. I have so many other wonderful recipes that I'm uploading every other day. And I look forward to seeing you again. Have a blessed and wonderful day and enjoy cooking.